Donald Trump's leadership style has always been a toxic combination of sadism, greed, corruption, and incompetence. And because of him, the world's richest country and a lot of the people in it might be going hungry. ABC News reports that the Department of Agriculture will halt food assistance through the Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program known as SNAP. SNAP feeds roughly 1 in 8 Americans. The program is funded only through October. The government shutdown is now reaching its fourth week, and if Congress doesn't reach a deal soon, millions of households could lose food aid on November 1st. The Department of Agriculture made the announcement on its website. The statement contained the lies, pettiness, and partisanship we have now come to expect from the Trump regime. The announcement said in part, quote, Senate Democrats have now voted 12 times not to fund the food stamp program. Bottom line, the well is run dry. At this time, there will be no benefits issued on November 1st. We are approaching an inflection point for Senate Democrats. They can continue to hold out for health care for illegal aliens and gender mutilation procedures, or reopen the government so mothers, babies, and the most vulnerable among us can receive critical nutrition assistance, unquote. This comes after the Trump regime rejected using about $5 billion in contingency funds to extend food aid into November during the shutdown. This was revealed Friday in a USDA memo. Let's get something completely straight here. The reason we're in the shutdown is because the Republicans control every single branch of government, and they did not want to extend Obamacare subsidies, which would have helped millions of Americans continue to have affordable health care. There are no undocumented workers in this country signed up for the Affordable Care Act. None of that money is going to pay for gender affirming care. The Republicans are choosing to keep the government closed in order to make their ridiculous culture war talking points stick with their cruel and, in most cases, easily manipulated base. I am sick to death of these people pretending that everything is Democratic's fault when it's them who are destroying this country piecemeal, even if that means punishing children by starving them in order to blame Democrats. In a recent article, Newsweek posted a map highlighting which states' citizens are most dependent on SNAP benefits. The article notes that states with the highest populations tend to have the most recipients, which makes perfect sense. As you can see, however, many states that voted for Donald have high percentages of people who also rely on food aid. These states include Florida, Texas, New Mexico, and Georgia. In other words, Donald is perfectly happy to starve his own voters and their children. And then again, in order to score cheap political points. That is who he is, and that is who the entire fascist Republican Party is. The New York Times reports that the government shutdown and SNAP stoppage are devastating federal workers. The piece says that over 1.4 million government employees have gone without pay for almost a month. Roughly half of them are still working without compensation. Many are selling their belongings, they're taking side gigs, and they're lining up at food banks in order to stay afloat. In cities like Seattle, food pantries serving federal workers are running out of supplies within hours. Remember when Donald referred to other countries as shithole countries? Welcome to Donald Trump's America. But before we go on, we have to fight for our most vulnerable citizens in any way we can. So please like and share this video. And if you believe in our mission, please subscribe to the Mary Trump Media channel. How is the Trump regime reacting to all of this? Theoretically, shouldn't an elected leader be concerned about the prospect of starving his own party's voters? Well, here's a clip of Donald arriving in Malaysia over the weekend, telling us exactly what his priorities are. Yeah, let them eat cake as long as I can dance. Am I right? Oh, wait, no, they don't even get the cake. We just get that vile performance of whatever the fuck that is Donald is doing while the world's attention is focused on him, which is really the only thing he cares about. Let's not forget, with Americans struggling to feed themselves and their families, Donald entirely destroyed. The east wing of the White House, it is gone. It is not even a pile of rubble anymore. It is just an empty space, all to make room for the construction of an opulent, gaudy ballroom that will benefit nobody but the most obscenely wealthy among his supporters. White House Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt made it very clear which issue Donald is most focused on right now during this crisis of a government shutdown combined with a very bad economy, which we can lay entirely at the feet of Donald Trump.
At this moment in time, of course, the ballroom is really the president's main priority.
Oh my goodness, that is such a relief. People cannot feed their children. In the meanwhile, Donald is taking corporate bribes to build a new ballroom that we were told would initially have a price tag of $200 million and then $250 million and then $300 million. And now it's up to $350 million. Where is all of that money going? What is it for? Who is going to benefit? Well, can you say quid pro quo? No wonder that creep is dancing his way through Asia. Just like during the COVID pandemic, blue state governors are stepping up to fill the leadership vacuum created by the monster currently in the Oval Office. The California government recently announced local measures to feed state residents in the absence of SNAP. The announcement read, quote, Governor Gavin Newsom will deploy the California National Guard and California volunteers on a humanitarian mission to support food banks as the federal government shutdown delays food benefits for millions of California families. In addition, Newsom is fast-tracking upwards of $80 million in state support ahead of funding delays triggered by the shutdown, unquote. And Minnesota Governor Tim Walz had harsh words for Donald using people's hunger as a political tool. Take a look at Walz's remarks.
This is not a both sidesism. This is owned by the Republicans. It is owned by their ability to want to have anything their way. They've got a president that is pulling money back that was appropriated by the legislature, which these legislators, I know, I'm glad they are, would be horrified by that idea, giving up their authority as an independent branch. So I know Democrats are ready to go. I know they're ready to come back and do this. They're ready to come back and protect things that had passed the legislature. They are not willing to come back and let an authoritarian president do whatever he wants. The people are going to be lined up out here to get food, and we're talking about a damn ballroom. Don't lose the plot.
Yeah, and let's remember why we're here. We are here because congressional Republicans have entirely ceded their constitutional authority and obligations to the American people by just handing it over to Donald Trump and the executive branch. Let's get back to what Newsom is doing. $80 million is being made available to feed people who are no longer going to be able to eat because the federal government is denying them the money they need in order to, do frivolous things like feed their children. Okay, cool. Why? Why is Newsom doing that? Well, because California is an extremely wealthy state. In fact, if California were a country, it would have the fifth largest GDP in the world. So, blue state governors, I applaud you for standing up against the Trump regime, for filling in the void, for being willing to do your own counter gerrymandering so they can't go ahead and cheat us blind in 2026. But here's another idea. Stop sending your tax dollars to the federal government. Stop funding welfare states in the South who seem perfectly comfortable allowing the federal government to dictate to them whether or not their citizens are going to be able to eat food. I am heartily sick of funding these monsters. So let's make sure we stop doing that immediately. Please take a second and like and share this video. It'd be awesome if you could subscribe to the channel. If you're listening to us in podcast form, please follow us and give the show a 5-star rating because it really does help other people find our content. Thanks.